Welcome back, my friends. Today, my goal is to share with you something that'll hopefully change the way you see your world. I'm going to teach you how photography has probably distorted the way you see the world and yourself. And I'm going to teach you about artistic masturbation, but that's coming later. Let's go over why photos don't look like real life. The lens distorts how you look. Gary, show him what I mean. 50 to 80 millimeter lens is the closest to being more lifelike. Still not perfect, but if you're shooting in your iPhone on selfie mode, it's closer to a 24 or a 34 millimeter lens, and so it's gonna look like you have a cone face, kind of like I do in this camera. If you want your iPhone to look more lifelike, you can take it and turn the zoom to right around 3 times zoom, and that should get you pretty close to the 50 millimeter lens. But again, you can't do this in selfie mode, and it still doesn't look lifelike because of point number 2, blur. Here's where I'm really gonna blow your mind. Real life is super blurry. So many people like blurry backgrounds, and they don't know that that's why, because blurry looks more lifelike. So here's where we kind of enter a touchy subject that could get me a bunch of hate from women's self-love groups, and I don't want that, but I gotta go here for all the girls that think that they're uglier than they actually are. And I've got a beautiful little girl that needs to know that that shit's not true. If you've ever seen someone post an unedited photo of themselves and then try and convince other girls that they need to love themselves like they love this photo of themselves, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That doesn't look like you. I went through this about 10 years ago with Kelly when she didn't like herself because of the photos that she was seeing on her iPhone. She looked at the photos and she thought, I don't like this about myself. And I didn't know then what I'm about to share with you right now. In real life, if you're looking at someone close, their whole face is blurry. If you were sitting here in real life talking to me right now, the only thing that would actually be in focus would be the pupil of my eye. And that's because in real life, there's only about 2% of your vision that's actually in focus. If you're looking at someone from a little ways back and you can see more of their body, then there's already a natural blur that starts to happen in real life, because the farther someone gets away from you, then the blurrier they become. The problem is with photography, we can take a picture of someone and we can show their whole body, and I can show it to you and it's this big on the screen. That makes it so you can see someone's whole body in focus at once, and that distorts real life. In real life, if you were going to look at someone and they're that big, then they're going to have to be 30 yards away from you, maybe 20 yards, but they're going to be a long ways away from you. And at that distance, they're going to be very blurry. You're not going to see all the little details in the pores. You're not going to see little tiny wrinkles in their stomach. All of these things are going to be very soft. This means when I'm watching Kelly take off her clothes, I'm actually pretty close to her. So the majority of her skin is very blurry. I might look at her lips. I might look at her eyes to see what she's thinking. And then I might look at her breasts and her butt, because I love those things about her. They're great. But my eye's flitting over the other stuff, and so it's very blurry. And then as we get closer, she becomes even blurrier. And so these little things that she thinks she sees because of photos that she takes don't really exist in real life. That's why now when I take a photo of her, I make time to do some editing, and I go in and I do high-low frequency separation, and I'm able to soften some of those weird red splotchy patches that don't exist in real life. And I'm able to smooth out some things that don't really exist in real life. But I didn't learn any of this until my amazing artistic mentor, Christopher Tullis at the Southern Oregon Tattoo Academy, taught me to see the world differently. Now, when I take photos, I make time to edit them. Not because I want to remove imperfections, but because I want to try and show the viewer what I actually see in real life. And they do look way more like real life than a crap phone photo, but they're still not as perfect as real life. Now that you have this base understanding, it leads me to this second part, which not very many people understand. And that's blur in art. This is what makes good art versus what I call artistic masturbation. And to give some grace, I don't think a lot of people know that they're whacking it at all. In good art, people understand the things that I'm talking about, and they subordinate or blur different parts of the picture in order to make it more lifelike. That's why Gil Evgren pinups and Frank Frazetta pinups look so great. They were showing you more of what they saw than just trying to render a photograph. But now there's this hyper rendering movement caused by photographs. Not good photography where they blur things, but bad iPhone photos. They're doing one thing that they can do really, really good over and over and over. And they're rendering an entire image perfectly so it looks like a photograph. But this is just one part of actual art. In music, that would be like a person being able to hit this really, really amazing high note, and then they just do it through the whole song, which would just be screaming. But the artist knows that if they render every little thing in super crazy detail and they do a portrait where you can see every pore on the person's face and every hair on the person's head, someone's going to give them a pat on the back and they're going to be like, wow, that looks just like a photograph. And that is the equivalent of getting off while you're masturbating. Good art, I believe, subordinates stuff to make it more lifelike. This is more like sex. It's more like the artistic representation of what they're seeing. It's free, it's flowing. They're choosing to do some things, they're choosing not to do some things in order to make the experience more amazing for the viewer. I think more like and in the end, people look at it and they'll say, wow, it looks so alive because it's more lifelike. My goal with this video is for everyone to realize that photos don't look like real life and that actually well-edited photos do look more like real life. So maybe don't hate on good photographers for editing their photos well. Maybe realize that that does actually look a little bit more lifelike, and realize that your iPhone photos of your whole body don't actually look like you. So don't try and get your little girls to believe that that's what they look like. And they need to love that. Teach them that in real life, those things don't even really exist and nobody really sees those except them because they're hyper analyzing these little things that no one else would look at. For artists, I hope you realize that good art subordinates stuff and that makes it more lifelike. And I hope you realize the artistic difference between having sex and whacking off. And my final goal for everyone is to observe your world. Realize the difference between it and a photograph. And realize that people are so much more beautiful in real life. If this was meaningful, click that like button. Share this video with your friends. I love you guys.
We hope this video added value to your life. To get access to everything else we've created, click the EXEX global link in the description to help you expand what's really extraordinary in your life.